I hate Christmas. I really do. Don't like anything about it. Don't like you either. But they got a story about me, my favorite character. And my beloved friend is going to read it to you. Hope you don't enjoy it. You know, my person I like very much, the Grinch, demanded that I read you a story. But I do like you, so I'll read you a story about the Grinch. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, Grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. They're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow's Christmas is practically here. And he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, every Who down in Whoville would wake up bright and early, they'd rush to their toys, and then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. Then the Who's young and old would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who pudding and the rare Who roast beef, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand. And the Whos would start singing. And they'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. The more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years, I put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea, an awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. He made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With his hat and his coat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since the reindeer were scarce, there were none to be found. Did that stop the Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. He called his dog Max, and then took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. And then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sled, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, giddy up, and the sleigh started down to the homes where the Whos lay a-snooze in their town. All the windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air, and all the Whos were dreaming sweet dreams without care. Then he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number one. The grinchy old Santa Claus hissed. He climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fists. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa can do it, so could the Grinch. He only stuck once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace view. With the little Who stockings all hung in a row, these stockings, he grinned, are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags, and the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox, and he took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash, while the Grinch took every last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. Then the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound, like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, little silly Lou Who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. As she stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree. There won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it all up and bring it back here. His fib fooled the child. He patted her head. Then he got her a drink and sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log on the fire. And then he went up to the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and took one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. It was 15:15 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a-snoozing, when he packed up his sled. He packed up their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsels, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his log to the tip-top to dump it. Poo-poo to the Who's was his grinchiously humming. They found out now, no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, and I know what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a minute or two. And then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry out, boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then started to grow. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. It hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. And somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours. His puzzler was sore. And then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what had happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, that Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight. He whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys and the food in the feast. And then he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef. Merry Christmas, each and every one of you.